know we're going to dive into several things. Scott messaged me. He's like, bro, what are we talking about? I'm an endless opportunity of discussion, which you and I both are, man. So I know this is going to be a super
Amen.
easy podcast for us to do. And we're just hanging out here, hopefully to drop a few things that people can take to the bank. I actually want to start with the F words book, because
Yeah.
when I saw you posting about that on Facebook, I was like, bro, I don't even know what this book's about, but that's like that's a clickbait title of a book right there. Books came around long before clickbait was even a thing, but you took clickbait and put it as a title of a book because,
Yeah.
I've got to think there's some strategy behind that, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And it actually backfired a little bit because Amazon threw a lot of shade at me for the F words. So I actually couldn't run ads per their whatever guidelines. Yeah,
Oh,
so obviously the F word that they were concerned about is not in there. It's a book for teenagers. But we go through, just faith and family and friends and finances and fitness and
wow.
there's 9 sections, so 9 different F words, 4 short chapters in each, and then each chapter ends with 3 things that I want you to know. So this is written for my son, but then ultimately all teens. 3 things I want you to know before graduation, and when you add it all up, it's 117 different nuggets.
Wow. What's your favorite one out of the book?
Failure, and that's something we'll inevitably get to today because failure is feedback, and it took me a lot of years to figure that out, and now I'm at a point in my career where I'm it's going to sound weird, but I try to fail. I throw myself into different scary situations, things that I'm not comfortable with or I haven't done in the past. And I know that there's going to be bumps in the road and straight up falling on my face and failing, and then kind of pause, reflect, use that as feedback, figure out how to make it better. So that's actually the first one we cover in the book for that reason.
Very cool, man. Yeah, I always tell my team I'll never be upset with them if they make a mistake once. I'll get upset if they repeat that mistake because they didn't learn from it the first time, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I used to Martin is our HR consultant in our company, and he actually ran HR at Blue Apron. So dude brings a ton of knowledge to us. And my mantra was the typical tech startup mantra, which was move fast and break things, right?
Yeah.
And he said, DJ, I just want to challenge you on that for a second. Maybe take a different approach. How about slow is smooth and smooth is fast? And that's a Marines, a Navy SEAL, not a Marines. I guess it's Navy if it's Navy SEALs, DJ. It's a Navy SEALs mantra that slow is smooth, smooth is fast, and that's why those guys can just come into a room and it's nothing at all. And so like I've tried to do a better job of that slowing down, but I'm a huge proponent in failure. I know we've all had our own failures. I said this. I think I was on a I may have been on Michael Weaver's podcast, Insurance Buzz. He asked me about failures, and I said, listen, if you're being coached by somebody, or you're listening to somebody, or you're taking advice from somebody, and they're like, I've never failed, you're learning from the wrong person, bro. Like, because either they're
Right.
lying to you, or they just didn't take big enough risk that had that downside to it.
Yeah. They're lying
Um,
to you, by the way.
right, exactly, right. Nobody goes through his life without failures, man. That's good. Uh, so talk to us. What I mean, obviously, one of the failures is like, hey, we couldn't run Amazon ads, right? Like, boom, like that's like micro failures. No, like if you really put a magnifying glass on anybody that's making moves, you're gonna see them. I always like the analogy: you'll never see a dog bark at a parked car. So like if you're moving, you're gonna get attention, you're gonna get haters, you're gonna have
Yeah.
mistakes. It's part of it. Talk to us a little bit about that, Scott. Maybe even in your insurance business or in your coaching business.
Yeah.
What is like a aha moment that you could share with the listeners where you're like, man, I made this mistake, I didn't see it coming, and like here's what you guys should be looking for so it doesn't happen to you.
Yeah, let's do a 2 phases to this. The first one is, you're a coach, obviously, you're a great coach, and you don't care about what your clients are doing well. And I shouldn't say you don't care, but that's not your focus. What they're doing well or what they're already good at, they
Mm-hmm.
don't need you for.
Mm-hmm.
What you care about are the struggles, are the obstacles. And so, what I bring to the table with my team every day, I call myself the 5 minute manager. I know there's a book, The 1 Minute Manager. I'm not that good, right? So the 5 minute manager. So every single day, we just break down the last 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, whatever they work. That's all we care about. And we clearly define a goal. action activity based, something they can control. So I'm not worried about results. Results will follow, as you know. So what
Mm.
action or activity did you focus on today? Quantifiable goal. Did you hit it? Yes or no? If it's yes, awesome, right? We celebrate the small wins. We track momentum. So how many days in a row have you won? Because when you go 7, 8, 9 days in a row, you actually work harder because you don't want to break that streak. But
Ooh.
to get to the point, the most important thing that I'm looking for as a coach is if it's a no, that's okay. But what were your struggles? Where were your obstacles? And now let's just have a 5 minute conversation on how we can fix that, overcome those next time it pops up because it will. So,
Love
so
that.
really that's, how I work it with my team. I think your original question, which I kind of veered off of, I said I was going to do two phases. I started rambling, forgot the second phase, but just me personally, I guess to piggyback off of what I just said, I used to look too far out into the future. I was too focused on production, results. All that stuff matters. The vision board, the long-term goal, the 5 year plan, the results obviously paid the bills. But when I switched gears and really honed in on just what can we control today, and even more minuscule, this very conversation. How can I
Mm.
be the very best version of myself right now with DJ to add the most value possible, be fully engaged here? And so, obviously, from an insurance standpoint, all about the customer, active listening, improving on the questions that we're asking, and really just go beyond each transaction. And I use the word optimize a lot, but optimize every opportunity, every conversation to find something that you can, follow up on, add value, go deeper into. So really just
I like
shortening
that.
that time horizon to the now is probably the biggest
Yeah.
shift that I've
Let
made.
me. I want to double click if you'll share with us when you said like the last 8 hours. So are you doing your roundups with your team at the end of the day then? Because it's like like their last. Because I'm hoping if it's in the morning, it's like, well, I hope everybody was sleeping. They're like, dude, I was partying all night last night, right? So
Yeah,
are you doing these at the end of the day just to kind of
that's a great
review
question. That's
like
a
what
great
happened?
question. So the whole team gets a survey at the end of the day, somewhere between
Ooh.
4:30, and it asks those
Okay.
questions. Yeah, what was your goal for today? Did you hit it? Yes or no? What I went through, and then the last thing is, what are your goals for tomorrow? And then this way, they come in and they've just got laser like focus. They know exactly what they need to do. First thing in the morning, they have that prioritized list of goals, and so we have our
Sick.
conversations in the morning. So to answer your question, the last 8, 9 hours I'm referring to would be the last eight,
Is
9 hours they worked. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So
why I was
so
asking
same
because
goes
I
for
was like,
like,
you hear a lot of times morning huddles, but I'm like, maybe Scott's doing them in the afternoon, like
yeah,
beginning
no,
of
no,
the day.
no. We
Is
do
that
uh we do
is that
morning huddles.
survey automated? I'm guessing like it
It
just pings
is.
their inbox every day, and then
It is.
they're filling it out. Do you get it? Did you get any pushback? Like they're like, Scott, why are you micromanaging me, bro? Like I'm
Oh
hitting my
hell yeah.
goals. Why
I
do I have
get
to tell you
pushback
every
on
day?
almost everything. Yeah. Absolutely. But here's the deal. You know, my job is to help them to help them get to where they want to be. And a big thing that we do that's different than most too is all my team members write their own business plans. We
Ooh,
work off the 12-week year from Brian Moran's book, and every
haven't heard
12
that one.
weeks,
Okay,
yeah, oh,
12-week
it's a
year.
great one. Yeah, so obviously, real quick in a nutshell, a quarter is 13 weeks, but Brian Moran says take 12 weeks and have a year. And so, and the idea is it's what's the Parkinson's law? Right. So if you the longer the time horizon, the more you're going to delay doing things. But if you take that time horizon and shrink it, now every day matters because we only have 12 weeks to hit our numbers. So I change everything every 12 weeks. Our comp plan,
Wow.
roles, responsibilities, right? Everything's on the table. So that 13th week, we look back as a team and we figure out what went well, right? Double down on that. What didn't? How can we improve on that? And then we go out and have some fun. We do team outings and just go out and play together. It doesn't matter if we hit our goals or not. We're going out and we're going to celebrate each other's company.
Love that.
But yeah, to answer the question, what was the question around?
if it was morning or afternoon. So yeah, I mean, if you guys you're meeting in the morning and then the automated surveys, and then are you
Yeah.
reading those? You got a manager that reads those? Like, I mean, because that's like direct. I mean, that's from the horse's mouth, as we say here in Kentucky, right? Like that's coming straight to you,
Yeah.
and you're getting instant feedback, right?
So what we do is everybody reads them, and this is a huge
It's just like a
accountability tool.
360 eval every day. Holy shit!
Yeah, yeah. So we submit it, and then right around 6, 7 o'clock at night, everyone on the team gets to see. There's an email with everyone. We call it the win the day, so that we get the win the day results, and we get to see everyone. So from an accountability
Wow.
standpoint, yeah, it's you don't want to be the one showing up not looking good, right? I mean, we call it 0 zeros. So the goal is to not have a zero with any of our metrics that we're tracking. So,
Hmm.
not to sound cold, but you know this, you're either going to make it happen or you're going to make excuses.
It,
And so they actually work harder to make it happen, knowing they've got a report at the end of the day, knowing everyone's going to see the report come back, and knowing that either myself or one of the agency managers are going to meet with them for 5 minutes. So we
wow.
just, consistently get it done. I just remembered real quick, and then I'll shut up and let you ask more.
You're
But
fine. You're fine.
with the 12-week year, the reason I brought that up, they write their own business plans for that 12-week year. So when you ask about pushback, I don't assign my team goals. My team assigns themselves goals. They write their own business plan. They tell me what they need from me. And then I am, just like you are, their coach, their cheerleader, their shrink, whatever they need to get them
Wow.
to where they said they want to be. So it empowers them. I use the rental car analogy all the time. When you rent a car, you drive it a little faster, you brake a little harder, you take turns a little quicker, right? Because you don't own it. And when you don't own it, you don't care about it. And so my team owns their own business plan. They're the CEO of their desk. They own the opportunity. They have my full trust, support. I empower them. That's why they're there. And then I just
Very cool.
act as their coach. So when they give me pushback, it's like, hey, I'm doing this for you, not for me.
I'm writing that down too. CEO of their own desk. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, everyone's got the same title.
Look, normally I
They're
type
little
notes. I'm just gonna go
agency
ahead.
within my
I'm gonna pull the
agency.
stylus out on this one because I already know I'm gonna be taking plenty of notes. So I love this. This is why I like doing podcasts, man. I take just as much away from it as the other one. The name of the book again that you mentioned,
The
12
12-week year. Yeah,
12 week
Brian
year.
Moran, Moran. It
CEO of their own desk. And what's that look like, Scott, when you're saying they're writing their own business plan? Can you give us, because listen, man, and this is where like my podcast is a little different than most, right? It's like, okay, cool, Scott, great. Well, moving on, your next book, right? Like, it's like, no, dude, like if I find something because I'm a coach myself and like I want my listeners to be like, shit, dude, like I get so much, I'd have to pay for this podcast, which by
yeah.
the way, all you guys gonna need to do is leave me a review and drop the subscribe button there. But what's that look like for you guys? Like when you have a service person or a salesperson, like what do you mean by like they're making their own business plan? Do you give them a framework? Do they, it's like you're like here's a
Yeah.
blank piece of paper
Yeah.
and let's see what you can come up with? Talk to
No,
us
no, no,
about
no,
that.
no. 100%. There's a framework. Theirs is short. So we think business plans as business owners, and we're thinking 40 pages with financial spreadsheets. Like that. It's not
Right?
that, right?
Pro formas.
Yeah, it's like 3 pages, and it's
Cool.
really fill in the blanks, right? So personal mission statement, a review of the last 12 weeks, the goals in each category that matters to them for their role.
Wow.
Marketing, what the centers of influence we're huge on. That's the referral piece. So really it's templated, and the
Okay.
way it works is we get together as a team and I say, hey, we crushed it in life the first 12 weeks. We're behind in health. We've got a health promotion this next 12 weeks. So let's put more focus there. And that's the other cool thing. It allows me to incentivize them differently based on where we need to focus and catch up,
Mm,
numbers wise, and take the foot off the gas a little bit in other areas because you can't do all things all the time. Right? I mean, I guess
100%.
that's probably a limiting thought now that I say it out loud, but we wear a lot of
I
hats.
like that, bro. Catching yourself. Listen,
Yeah, but we do. We wear a lot of hats, and
but
and
but to the
you know,
listeners, man, they don't realize how their words impact them. And I want you guys to take away something that Scott, just to show you how conscious this guy is about his words, right? As soon as that came out of his mouth, it's like, well, you can't be authentic. That was a little limiting. Like, because it is, and it's
Yeah.
true, right? Or to use a Ray Dalio term, by and large, it's true, right? You can't just be 100% all the time on. I always make the analogy. We're in Kentucky. I wore my shoes today, so you couldn't tell, Scott. But we're in Kentucky. But we got racehorses, right? And the racehorse can't live on the track. It's got to come off. It's got to have rest, recovery stuff. So it's like you can't be on 100 all the time. But the fact that, dude, you just like your unconscious mind caught that, right? It was like, we don't believe self-limiting talk around here. And you just caught that without even thinking about it. If you're listening to this right now, I want you to take note of that. Like, think about how you've talked to yourself in the last 24 hours, right? You get around negative people. Oh man, my car's junk. My family's rough on me, blah, blah. It's like you're just feeding this monster that's inside of you called negativity over and over and over again. And I really, sorry, Scott, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just really wanted to make that point
No,
because that's impressive, because guys at our level, we catch ourselves on shit like that. And people
yeah.
that are struggling, they don't, man. They just keep putting the manure on top of the pile.
Yeah, the words matter, no doubt. And yeah, I'll give you another one that hopefully you consider a golden nugget here. But I talk about living in sin, and SIN being an acronym, and that's self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and negative self-talk. And so we're very conscious of, if are we living in sin? Are we doing all these things? And it's natural. We all have that voice in our head that's telling us you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not prepared enough. That voice is never going to go away. But you've got to learn to silence that voice. You've got to recognize it. You can talk to it. You probably shouldn't talk to yourself out loud, but inner talk saying, "Hey, I hear you, but you're wrong. I can do this." Because you and I both know. Well, I'll put you on the spot. The number one thing that you hear, especially from newer business owners or people working for business owners, when it's like, "Hey, you've got to do this, you got to try this," and they say, "Well, I can't because I'm not what."
Mm-hmm. Not qualified, not skilled enough. I mean, there's a
There's a million,
litmus
right? But
yeah, the
confidence.
I can't statement
Well, that,
by
yeah,
itself, it doesn't even matter. Like that right there, you've already lost. It doesn't matter what
yeah.
your
So,
reason
so it's
is.
like lack of confidence, right?
Yeah,
And
man.
and you hit on it, right? And so I say it all the time. Confidence is earned. It's not learned, right? I'm not going to
Ooh.
teach anyone confidence. You're not going to teach anyone confidence. You learn it, right? You earn it rather by doing it, by making the mistakes, failure, full circle, right back to where we were.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you another one with the
Give me the in on sin again. So I got self doubt,
negative
imposter syndrome,
self-talk. Yeah,
negative
so
self talk.
self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and negative self-talk.
My creative director for a while, when he started with us, he's like, man, I got a little bit of imposter syndrome, DJ. And I'm like, why, Andy? Like, your shit you put out is fire, bro. Like, this stuff is next level. He's like, I know, man. And like sometimes I'll get on and like I'll see stuff that people are publishing, and I'm like, man, I would have never put that work out. Like, I do way better work than that. And I had to remind him. I said, listen, man, only imposters get imposter syndrome, right?
Mm.
It's like only the people that like that's the imposters. Like, you gotta wipe that, bro. Like, if you know that you're doing something, that's where that confidence comes from, man. And it's that negative self talk of like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy,
Yeah.
I can't be like the rest of these people. But sin, guys, write that one down. If you're I'll give you a double take to the bank on that one, bro. I like that
No,
acronym.
thanks,
That was
brother.
cool.
Let's go back to I can't, right? Real quick. You got to kick the A out to make this one work, but I can't, when you kick the A, becomes I choose not to. And more specifically, it's I choose not to try. So when I hear words like that from my team, like I can't do this or I can't be that or I can't, it's not that you can't, you're choosing not to.
Mm.
And maybe you're not going to be good at it at first. You probably won't, right? But it's not that you can't. And so there's certain pet peeves that I have with words that we really hone in on.
I
And
like
I
that,
can't,
man.
yeah. And I do that with my kids too. I mean, now they're catching themselves. So it's kind of cool that you caught me catching myself, because I challenge them to do that too. When they do the I can't thing, and then they'll be like, here
Dude, I
comes
love that because
dad preaching.
we we just had a baby last year in April. She'll be 1 this April, which is crazy
Awesome.
how fast this thing has
Mm.
happened, man. And she's starting to learn, and like I can just see how smart she's going to be. And I told Tori, I was like, what I'm most excited to teach her is the things that I didn't learn that I had to learn from coaches and mentors, like my family never taught me. And it's like the Think and Grow Rich book, everything that
Mhm.
Napoleon Hill talks about in there, right? Like I'm gonna make sure that by the time she's in middle school, she understands that affirmations are a real thing. And if I
Yeah.
tell myself that I'm powerful, strong, and bold every single day, guess what? I'm gonna wake up and be powerful, strong, and bold. And it's like those are the things that, like, I can't wait to teach her, on top of how to trade stocks and whatnot. All the fun stuff, how money
So,
works. But
so you just
uh,
hit on the exact reason I wrote that book for my son. I had this moment where I was like, I sell a lot of life insurance, and I'm like, if something happens to me, the kids are going to be fine financially, but there's a few nuggets in the old man's head that
mm,
that I'd be leaving with, and I don't want to leave with them. And so I sat down every morning. I'm a morning guy. I'm like 4:30. I'm that guy, right? The
yeah,
morning
man,
routine. And that's my time to think and be creative and write. And I just started writing what really was a love letter to my son. I'm like, hey, I want you to know this, and I want you to check this out, and this was going on for months. And when all the dust settled, I had like 300 pages of notes. And I was like, shit, I've
wow,
got a book. Like I didn't even set out to write a book. But all of a sudden I'm like, I got a book here. And so that's how it came about, because I want to pass that on to my kids and,
that's cool,
timelessly.
man. Yeah, yeah, you can, life insurance can pass on finances, but you're responsible for passing on morals, and making people, and dude, and we won't go down this rabbit hole, but like I think that both, like, more now than ever, we need people pulling us back to a moral, just world that is, you call it God, whatever you want to, whatever your
Yeah.
belief system is, but a higher power that keeps us all in line, because yeah, we'll leave it to that. But I'm thankful that you wrote this book, man. I hadn't had a chance to read it yet. I've seen you posting about it all over social media, and
Yeah.
the title definitely grabbed my attention. But now that I know a little bit more of what's inside of it, man, I'm gonna have to grab a copy of that.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
talk. How long have you been an insurance agent? Let's shift
I
shift
opened
gears
up
a
in
little bit.
2009. So this is year
Okay.
15.
Nice, man. And what would you say? Because I've got people that listen to the podcast, from 13-year-old guys buying their first lawnmower and getting in
Mhm.
business to, guys that are running mega agencies and every other business you can think out
Sure.
in between from a service. I've focused mainly on service businesses. What are, just give us, a couple takeaways after 15 years, man. Obviously, you've got some new systems dialed in and stuff. You're doing these, I mean, these surveys, that's freaking next level, man. But like, what's some other cool stuff that you can share with my listeners, man? I'm all about giving them value.
Yeah, absolutely. So no matter what business you're in, there's just common denominators to success, right? Regardless of
Yes,
of what
sir.
you're doing. And one mantra that we use all the time when you're talking about not going down the rabbit hole, and we don't have to, but what I preach to my team is when
I
you
mean,
do
we
the
can.
it's just us, man. Um, when you do the right thing for the right person at the right moment, you can never be wrong. And that's
Ooh.
that's something we live by. I share that I live here, I work here, I'm raising my family here, not because I have to, because I want to. Right? I love this community, and that's why we're so community minded. But one of those common denominators, to answer your question, is relationships. And I know that sounds very vague, but I have more than doubled down on this connection economy, on relationship marketing, where I become very strategic and intentional every single day with the types of meaningful contacts and interactions, and how I can add value to the lives of people who are already meeting with my future customers. Because when we look at marketing from a traditional standpoint, you've got people fighting for the scraps who aren't connected with relationships. So what do I mean by that? If DJ's a mortgage broker and I'm an insurance agent, and DJ's like, yo, you've got to go see Scott. He's like the only option for insurance, been working with him for years. That person's like, all right, cool, I'm going there. He's no longer in the
Yeah.
market for insurance. And so when they see these high dollar marketing campaigns and ads, they're not even, it's white noise, because they're not in the market for insurance. I'm already their guy. So if you can have that referral based business, that relationship, marketing to that level, you don't need to do traditional marketing. Let those
Yeah.
corporate behemoths, those giants, do that. And so it's
I
the
love
advice I
that,
would
dude.
give after 15 years is relationships matter. Relationships will make you happier, healthier, the right relationships, by the
The right
way.
ones. Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure.
every single day I use this process that I've coined salute and support. And so I'm looking for opportunities to salute people, give them high fives, give them some love, and just let them know I see you. I see you hustling, like I see you, DJ. Like you're hustling, you're grinding. I love the content. Sometimes I'll scratch my head and be like, I don't know about that, but I still love it, right? Because we can agree to
That's
disagree on
right.
certain things,
That's right. That's right.
and but it's awesome, and you're out there doing it, and you're developing those relationships. So salute those people, and then when people need help, offer to support them.
I
Here's
think
another pro.
that
Yeah, go
ties
ahead.
back into brand too, Scott, right? Like
Mm,
I tell agents all the time, like you have to build your own brand. And I say agents because it's mainly who we work with, but
sure.
real estate and insurance, but like any business, you have to build a brand, and I think a lot of times, especially captive agents, they're
Mm,
like, but I'm paying those guys 90% of my money. They're my
mm,
brand. And I'm
yeah.
like, people
Mm-mm.
don't buy insurance from people, or I'm sorry, people don't buy insurance from companies. People buy insurance from people. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's to me like by what you're doing, that's old school brand building, man. That's shaking babies and kissing hands. I'm just joking. It's shaking
I
hands
do
and
this.
kissing babies.
I do the same thing. That's hysterical.
And the idea is like, what I try to teach agents is like, if you're doing that, I mean, you got to be doing that, right? Like that's the piece. If you're not doing it, like shit, we got to start at square one and get you at least building your brand, meeting those people, those referral partners. But then when you take it online, you
Mm,
have like a whole new plethora of people. Like maybe Scott can't get a hold of that mortgage guy today, but he's driving past that dude's office, so he stops, takes a selfie in front of the statewide mortgage building, and then tags that guy's Facebook page and was like, just wanted to give a quick shout out to my man John Smith at Statewide Mortgage. He's a hustler. Love working with him. We do a ton
mm,
of business together. If you guys are looking for a mortgage broker, give him a shout out, right? That's a way to like online that like salute, to him, right?
yeah.
It's like, hey, you could text him and say, hey, I see you hustling. But when you do it that way, and then the tech piece comes in, if you tag that guy's page, now his followers are exposed to your brand and your followers are exposed to his brand. And it's like this thing starts happening. And I'll tell you, she's an Allstate agent out of New York, Christina Shaw. And dude, that's Scott, right to your playbook, bro. That's all she does. All she does is host
Yep.
like networking events and things like that. And it's all for realtors. And it's like she's famous amongst realtors, but she's like, dude, when that business comes in, she's like a 50-60% close rate because it's a
Yep.
referral. And that's the easiest business to close. And then they're multi-lining with you and you're making bank off of it, man.
Love that so much. There's so many levels to that. So I've got a bazillion mantras and catchphrases. Another one is if you're not unique, you're weak. And personal
Ooh.
branding is what it's all about, right? Because especially for insurance agents, there's so many things we can't control. The only differentiating factor, by and large, is us. It's
Yeah.
you, right? So how are
Nope.
you going to be unique? How are you going to be different? How are you going to be remembered? And I'll really date myself here, but 15 years ago when I opened, I had to write a press release to the local media outlets and then pray that someone would show up to one of my events and I might get a little blurb in the paper. Now, man, we are the media. You know this, right? That's your company. We
That's
we
it,
are the
bro.
media. And so it's shocking to me business owners who shy away from that.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying lean into it, man. Just cannonball that shit.
You
Like
just gotta,
jump
yeah,
in and
you gotta engage. Like the
100%. So that
it's like
cross
the
pollination of
plumber.
the markets is huge.
It's like the plumber in 2015 that still thought the internet was a fad, right? Like, I just spoke to 200 Allstate agents in Chicago last week, and I was on stage, and I was like, I raised my hand. I was like, how many people in here, by a show of hands, think the internet's a fad? And nobody raised their hand, right? And I was like, I'm not going to make you guys raise your hands again, but some of you still think social media is a fad. In
Yeah.
10 years from now, you're going to be going, man, woulda, shoulda, coulda, because there's such things called a first mover advantage, right? It's like
Okay.
McDonald's is great at this. Like you'll see this on like an exit to an interstate. It's like there's nothing and bloop, a McDonald's comes in. And then what happens? Oh, it's a truck stop and a Wendy's and it's because they're the first mover advantage. They have the data. Social media works the same way. If you will be the first mover in your marketplace, you're the insurance person, you're the real estate agent, you're the plumber that people think about. And top of mind awareness, there's a Harvard journal, it's a Harvard Medical Journal. It's been quoted ad nauseum. It says top of mind awareness is not achieved until after 7 to 12 touches. And so this isn't like make one Facebook post and now it's like, okay, everybody come do business with me. It's you have to stay on top of this thing over and over and over again and just make it part of your daily habits to get to put yourself out there. Because again, like I said, man, dogs only bark at moving vehicles. So
but DJ, I tried that. I did it. I
yeah,
tried that once. I did that once. It didn't work, you
once.
know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It,
I always,
you know,
and I love it because when agents are like, if they're looking at our program, they're like, so how many leads am I going to get in the first month? I'm like, dude, do you think Doritos spends $7 million on a Super Bowl commercial and then comes in the next morning? Is like, I want the sales report. How many chips did we sell last night? That's
that
not
is
how branding
a
works.
great
And
analogy.
that's normally when I do my takeaway. I'm like, listen, dude, this is big boy business. And if you can't, like, if
Uh,
$400 means a month means your kids aren't going to eat, like, we probably shouldn't work together.
not gonna work. Yeah, I love that. That's a great analogy. This is the long game,
Yeah,
and
man.
and this is why it's such an opportunity for people who are willing to play the long game because 90% quit when they don't
Yeah.
get the immediate results. And so the agent that you're talking about, with all the realtors, like she's eating that up because no one else. Relationships take a long time. Any relationship, right? What do we talk about it all the time? People have to know you and like you and trust you. Well, that doesn't happen in 6 months or even a year. I mean, some of these relationships I've been working on 12, 15 years since day one
Yeah,
to
man.
finally get them to connect me to someone else. But,
It takes
so here,
time.
yeah. So my 5 S's, fellow small business owners, we talked about that, schools, service industry, service, community service or civic organizations, your star customers, and then the one you hit on is social. And so those 5 categories allow me to make sure that I'm also not one dimensional. Like I'm not only talking to attorneys or mortgage brokers or realtors. Like I'm getting into so many different groups within my community. So it's a diverse crowd.
Yeah.
And I want the schools is really my ace in the hole
That's what
because
I was getting ready to touch on, dude. That one is
yeah,
insane. The amount of engagement. So, like when we talk about engagement on social, right? We say, you can have like, I want posting every day. Okay, well, if it's shit content, you're not going to get engagement. People are going to see it. You're going to get that half of a second brand recognition if your logo or face is on it, and then they're scrolling right next to it, right? School content, high school, college, middle school, doesn't matter. Now, I will, Scott, we got to give everybody like be careful putting kids' faces out, right?
yeah, yeah.
Don't take a selfie with the third grade class and then post on social and you don't have approval. You could get that might be
Right,
your
right.
last time you ever go to a school. But the idea, like we've got a Chevy dealership that we work for, and like I went in and I looked at their social media, and everything that they were posted was like garbage content from GM, right? This like $1 billion organization. So it's like all these like super cool looking trucks. And I'm like, dude, you're in Kentucky. Nobody has $8 million homes here. And it's like you're posting a Chevy truck parked in front of an $8 million house in Aspen. It's like it just doesn't land. So we
Right.
had them switch. Dude, now once a month they're doing something with the sports team, right? So
Mhm.
like the next month in April they're throwing out the first pitch, right? And we're gonna get a bunch of pictures and videos from that. The school content is their most engaged content across everything that they post.
Yeah,
So it's huge.
100%. So a couple of things on the schools. I'm giving away all my secret, but so my next book is called Referrals Done Right. This one will be out in the summer of
Okay.
24.
Nice.
But when I teach all of this in the book, but let's talk about the schools because you're going to find out quickly if you haven't already. If you want to get into the wallets of parents, get to their kids because you're going to spend however much you said daughter.
Yeah, daughter. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, daughter. Yeah, birthday parties and different things that they want this you get to the kids. And so a couple things there. Parents love to share good news as they should about their kids on social. So I'm always on social looking for those opportunities. And I don't send the parents a card, talk about what's old is new. I'll handwrite a card to the kid. Hey, saw you just,
Nice.
had the lead in the play, heard that you crushed it. Great job. Keep up the good work. Right. And so then the parents are like, I'll get a message from them like, that was so awesome. Like, so and so was so excited about that. And it's just a fun thing to do. It's a good thing to do, right?
Yeah.
The other thing too, we talk about getting to customers before marketing campaigns do. As you know, the job boards are the worst place to try to find employees. And if you're looking for a higher level employee, recruiters are very expensive. And then to pluck them away, you got to pay them a lot of money. And so I'm like the Oakland A's when it comes to building a farm system. I can't afford the $200 million free agent. I'm looking for the 15-year-old phenom in the Dominican Republic. Right. Not
Yep. You're
literally,
gonna
but that's
bring them
just the
up.
analogy. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yeah.
when I'm working with the kids in the schools, I'm always doing career fairs and financial literacy workshops and teen driver safety. And I know all the local heads of the departments at community colleges and four-year schools that do job placement. And whenever I can get in front of these kids, I do. I'll help them with resume building, mock interviews. They can come in and do job shadowing because really
Nice.
what I'm doing is I'm building a pipeline of future talent that I can groom,
Yeah.
also future customers, and the parents could become customers now, or if I already have them, it's better, good for retention. And then the cherry on top is you're putting all this on social, so you're building your personal brand that you're a great community leader, which you are, right? You're
Yeah,
you're pouring
man.
into the kids. So the schools, I can't talk enough about all the positivity, and it's just again doing the right thing for the right people, and
Yeah.
it's worked out.
And just to be clear, Scott did not mean he's going to get kids from the Dominican and importing them to work in his business. That's
I
not
mean, I'm
that's
not
not what that
against it.
conversation
If
was.
they can sell insurance, I'm not against it.
No, in my webinars, I always say, Scott, I'm like, if you guys don't have anybody in your office that will do social, go to your local high school, find a female cheerleader, and people are normally like, where is he going with this? And it's like, no, they're, like a senior female cheerleader is probably going to be one of the most responsible kids in her class, right? Extracurricular activity. Girls are always going to be more mature in high school than boys, probably even in college. And it's like, that little girl could come to your office for 2 hours a day. It's a great job for her because she gets to make social media content for you versus making French fries at Wendy's. And it's like you've got somebody that's going to show up every day. They only need a couple hours because then they got to leave and go back to practice. The school system, man, and honestly, Scott, that the world we live in needs that, man. Like they
Yeah.
need the business guys to be re-engaged, the business women to be re-engaged in these schools because they're not, how often do we hear, well, I was never taught how to
Yeah.
leverage credit. I was never taught.
Right.
That ain't going to come from the business teacher. If the
No.
business teacher really knew how to leverage credit, and I'm sorry, a business teacher, I'm going to harp on you for a second, but like you wouldn't be teaching business. You'd be out here actually doing what me and Scott are doing. So I think some of that responsibility in the community falls on our shoulders
I
to
agree
come back and
100%.
teach those kids so that instead of them getting out of school and bitching and moaning on Twitter 3 years from now, instead of bitching and moaning, they go, man, this State Farm guy came in and showed me how to like leverage a credit card to buy an asset that then produces income. Like blew my mind. Now I'm not broke anymore, right? Like it's
Yeah. And,
that's
and and you and I, we don't want people in the top 10, right? We want people that are smart but not too smart. We want the people that have the chip on their shoulder, the underdogs, something to
oh
prove.
yeah,
We want people, and I don't know if you were super smart in the school. I wasn't. I was told I wasn't college material. I was told I'd probably end up in a factory. But here's the deal. I hated math and science, right? Once I did get to college and once I started learning about different business and entrepreneurial, it lit me up and I got excited. So
yeah.
when I go into the schools, I'm looking for those kids, right? They say you're best suited to serve the person you once were. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking for the kid that I can help with their mindset because schools teach you what to think, but not how to think. And
Yeah.
to your point, they don't teach you the real world stuff that we've learned through trial and error. So when I go there, that's what I want to bring to the table. I want to find those kids that might not see it in themselves yet, but it's there and give them a path because
Yeah,
what we
man.
do is awesome and not enough kids know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I was an okay student. I was going to be a chemical engineer. I like
Oh, dang,
aced
yeah.
chemistry
You like
one, chemistry
science.
two, AP chemistry. I was like, I was a nerd. But then you know what happened? I started mowing grass my senior year of high school, and I was like, shit, I'm not broke anymore. I got a little bread in my pocket. I can take a girl on a date now. And like, I was like, man, if I go, and I had several football scholarship offers, and I'm like, if I take these, I'm gonna go off to school. I'm not gonna have my mowing business anymore. I'm gonna be broke again. I'm like, I'm just gonna do this business thing. And my chemistry teacher and my guidance counselor tried to talk me out of it. They're like, "What? You just gonna like mow grass for the rest of your life?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna build a business. I'm gonna have people mowing grass." Like, I couldn't
Yeah.
even see where I'm at today. Like that was, to me, like I'm blown away every day that I wake wake up. I'm blessed to have a family and a spouse that supports me, and we're building. I'd say that our mission is to build tech and teams that change the world. And so it's fun to get up and do everything that I'm doing, but just know that sometimes them teaching people don't know what they're talking about when they try to limit you. You know what I mean? They try to say, "What, DJ? You just gonna mow grass forever?" Like, no, I'm one of these days I'm gonna make your salary in a week. It's like,
And here we are. Yeah. Now well, look at all of the billionaires in the world. Most of them are dropouts, right?
yeah,
Or
man,
never went to college. And I'm not anti-college. I don't want people to misunderstand that. But
yeah,
I've got one in college now, and I've got another one about to have to make that decision. And the world's
yeah.
changed. We have more information and knowledge, like you said earlier, this podcast totally free, right? I mean, so the TED Talks and YouTube, and if the kids really want to dive into learning this material, it's all at their fingertips, way
It's there,
different than
man.
when we were growing up. So
Yeah, that's what it kills me. You see these people with like 19 piercings and purple hair that spiked up to the sky, and they're like, "The America's a terrible place. It's the worst it's ever been." I'm like, "It's the best it's ever been, man. Like the
100%.
world was a much worse place 100 years ago."
100%, dude. I can't agree with you more. I tell my kids, you were growing up during the greatest moment in history, because the opportunities are truly endless. The opportunities used to be reserved for the elite, the wealthy, those that could
100%.
be connected. Now everyone truly does have access to information and ways to just live the life they want. So it's a
It's
great time.
crazy, man. Anything you want to learn is out there. You have access to mentors, you have access to knowledge, coaches. I tell people, I'm like, you have to have a coach. Go get a coach, right? Like it's funny. I can't remember. I was listening to somebody the other day. They said, it might have been Eric Thomas. He said, if you found a person that was at the Olympics and they was getting ready to get into the starting blocks to go run for gold, do you think there'd be a coach somewhere around them? And it's like, well, of course, probably multiple. And it's like, then why don't you have one? Right? Like, why don't you treat yourself like an Olympic athlete and get you some coaches around you? And people are like, well, I can't afford a coach. Bullshit. I'm not buying it. YouTube, podcast, books. It's all there. A coach doesn't have to be necessarily one on one. And I drive this. Sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox, Scott, because I
No,
talk to my audience about this all the time. It's like
your
you've
show,
got
it's
to
a
get you
sales
a
factory.
coach
Do it, man.
because for me, man, that's when my life changed. When I was 19, almost 20 years old, and I hired my first sales coach. And the guy's like, "Yeah, it's a $6,000 program." I'm like, "Okay, well, how do I pay for that?" And he's like, "We can just put it on any major credit card." I'm like, "Bro, I'm 20. I ain't got a credit card with a $6,000 limit. Are you crazy?" And so, like, the guy let me write six $1,000 checks that were postmarked every month for the next 6 months, and he would take it at the beginning of the month. He would deposit that for me. But because he did that, he taught me how to sell. He taught me life lessons. And dude, I would not be where I'm at right now if I would not have hired that first coach. And so, like, a lot of people think this coach is like some esoteric thing. It's not. You're at a friction point somewhere in your life, whether it's personally or professionally. You're at a friction point, and a coach does nothing more than just breaks it loose. Coaches don't have all the answers. You could hire Scott, you could hire me. We're not going to have all the answers, but our job is to come in, figure out where your friction's at, break you loose, and then let you run for a little longer. So I saw soapbox is over.
I
But you
love
asked
it,
me
man.
to
Don't get off.
challenge me,
Yeah,
man.
when you're trapped in a bottle, you can't read the label, and that's what a coach does.
Oh,
A coach looks at your label from the outside, and it's not your fault. You can't see it. They're just different lens, right? Different
yeah, man.
angle, and it makes and it's an accountability partner. And frankly, when you spend 6 grand on something that you don't have, you treat it a little different. You work a little harder, right?
It's
It
that rental
forces
car
you.
thing, right? Yeah, I was
Yeah,
treating
you
that bad
own
boy
it
like a
now, man.
Ferrari. I was 10 minutes early to every coaching session. Made sure I had two ink pens in case one ran out of ink. Like
Hell
you're
yeah.
locked in, man. So people pay attention to what they pay for. I like that one too. I say that
Mm,
all the time. Well, cool, man. We got to wrap this thing up. We're rolling on 45 minutes now.
dang.
Scott, if people want to find you, I know it's so easy, right? You're in the sales factory, baby. This is how it works. If people want to find you on social or they want to get your books, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so on social, it's just my name, Scott Grates. The book is Referrals Done Right. And so the website there will be referralsdonerightbook.com. We'll start pre-sales end of May, early June. That'll be an official launch August 13th. Traditional publishing company this time. Gonna,
Sick.
hardcover, trying to make a run at a bigger bestseller list.
Let's
So
go,
if you want to
man.
support the mission and learn how to operate in this connection economy and really go deep into relationships to get more referrals, referrals done right will be the book, referralsdonerightbook.com.
Very cool, man. And then how can they find the other one, the other book that you have?
Yeah, so on Amazon. So
Okay.
Essential F Words for Teens is on Amazon. Like I said, that was a wild journey. I wrote it for my son, and then it went on Amazon, and it picked up steam and became a bestseller in its category within a couple of weeks. And I
Wow.
think the average book sells it's something stupid. A number of people wouldn't even believe, like 52 copies or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. It's
The
stupid
majority of books
low.
sell less than 100 copies. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and this one hit 5,000 in the first 4 weeks, and I had
Wow.
nothing behind it. Again, shameful as a salesperson. I released a book that went that big, and there was no product behind it. I just truly wrote it for
Hey,
people to.
man.
But
You're
yeah,
doing good for the world, guys. If you want to go follow him, it's Scott Grates, Grates. Scott, appreciate you coming on the Sales Factory, man.
thanks,
Guys, if
Coach.
you
This was
haven't
fun.
hit the subscribe button, you didn't leave us a review, go do it, man. We dropped some knowledge on you today in the Sales Factory. My man Scott Grates. Go check his books out, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Hustle, it's worth it.